Hey, what's up guys? Gons here for the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel. Some people say there is no new world order. Those people really haven't done their homework. But more and more people are waking up to the reality that this world doesn't work the way we were taught. One major tenet of the New World Order agenda is depopulation. Now, this topic's been exposed quite a bit, but it's an interesting one that deserves continued attention as the propaganda continues. Now, I was a sociology major at UC Irvine, and I remember taking a class called Populations. This was well before my days walking with the Lord and being awake, but I recall my final paper was about controlling population. It was a logical analysis of population control across various countries and as a globe, and what we might do to solve this problem of overpopulation. Many people in my class actually took the depopulation approach, and it actually made sense. There was simply no way that the Earth would be able to sustain life with the consumption rates outrunning the production rates if the trends continued. My solution at the time wasn't any better. As a naive college student, it was basically to take third world nations out of their home countries or, wherever they're impoverished and bring them to rural lands waiting to be cultivated across the world. Now, I did some analysis and found that there's plenty of land in the world to sustain population growth, but what I didn't realize was the overall absurdity of this plan, as it would essentially be telling these nations of people to move out and bring them to where? Just random places that are ready for cultivation and city building? I mean, who would pay for it? Would they even want to leave their land? So it was an absurd thing, but give me a break, I was in college. My alternative solution was what everyone preached in this class, which was a decisive decision to reduce population, encourage some form of birth control. And there were even people that mentioned bringing up a kind of system where people would only be able to have children after a certain age. And if someone got pregnant before a certain age, that child would be either aborted or brought into adoption. But I even remember at the time thinking, man, this is really cruel thinking. This is really evil when you start to analyze it from a moral, ethical point of view. But that's secular social science for you, and the natural conclusions that you draw when you view the world through the Nietzschean paradigm. But the depopulation agenda is real, and here are some quotes, well-known quotes actually, from well-known people about depopulation. Jacques Cousteau once said, "The United Nations goal is to reduce population selectively by encouraging abortion, forced sterilization, and control of human reproduction, and regard 2/3 of the human population as excess baggage, with 350,000 people to be eliminated per day." End quote. David Brower, executive director of the Sierra Club, said, quote, "Childbearing should be a punishable crime against society unless the parents hold a government license. All potential parents should be required to use contraceptive chemicals, the government issuing antidotes to citizens chosen for childbearing." End quote. Bertrand Russell in The Impact of Science on Society said, quote, "At present, the population of the world is increasing at about 58,000 per diem. War so far has had no great effect on this increase, which continued throughout each of the world wars. War has hitherto been disappointing in this respect, but perhaps bacteriological war may prove effective. If a Black Death could spread throughout the world once in every generation, survivors could procreate freely without making the world too full. The state of affairs might be unpleasant, but what of it?" End quote. CNN founder and supporter of the UN, Ted Turner, once said, quote, "A population of 250 to 300 million people, a 95% decline from present levels, would be ideal." End quote. And Prince Philip said, quote, "If I were reincarnated, I would wish to be returned to Earth as a killer virus to lower human population levels." End quote. There are many more who think along these lines, but is overpopulation really a huge problem? I mean, here's a crude piece of analysis that makes us think about this issue. Tim Urban of Wait But Why blog did some calculations and came up with some interesting numbers. If 10 humans can fit in a square meter, approximately, it's very crowded, but it gets the point across, then the entire human population of about 7.3 billion would fit on a field that's 16.8 square miles, compared to the 196.9 million square miles that's available on Earth. Now, of course, only 57 million square miles of it is land, and interestingly, 33% of that land is desert, and 24% of that land is mountainous. So if we take out the uninhabitable total of 57%, we get about 24.5 million square miles of land that is habitable on Earth. Now, if we divide this number of inhabitable land by 16.8 square miles, we get about 1,428,571 habitable square miles per square mile of a population. Now, the experiment showed that there was about 26 million people per square mile if there were 10 people per square meter. So if we took that number of about 1.5 million habitable square miles and divided it by the 26 million people, each person would end up with about half a square mile. Now, it does feel a little crowded, but owning half a square mile of land per person would suffice for most of us. It's certainly a lot more than I own, which is 0. So it would be Edenic in a sense. Imagine it, we would be much more of a farming people and food would flourish in our communities. Well, maybe not, but this is proof that we live in a fallen world where we see these ideologies like eugenics and depopulation being blatantly flaunted by the elite, despite this truth that there's about a half square mile of habitable land. That's not including the desert and mountains, and some people like to live in deserts and mountains, so, take those people out, but there is plenty of space on this planet, and overpopulation is not a true problem in the way that these globalists and elites are trying to convey. Much of the environmental problems come from them. They're the ones that control the technology and the types of things that seem to be messing everything up. They're the ones that control the financial systems that are definitely messing up and have detrimented society. But either way, the indoctrination, the brainwashing continues to the next generation. And it's remarkable to see the kind of programming of the young minds of young children that's going on. Now, this is why I decided to make a video on this. The Disney Channel is one of those outlets that really pushes the globalist elite agenda, the New World Order. And taking into account everything we just went through here, watch this clip from a show called K.C. Undercover, which is a show about a family of spies. Check it out.
Okay, for your next assignment, you will be pairing off as married couples. You'll be learning to balance a budget, raise a family, and get through important life events. So, everybody pick a partner. Hey. I always knew we'd end up together.
Excuse me, Mrs. Greenfield. Is one of life's important events learning to love again after your fiancé tragically dies before this assignment begins?
Now that you want to pass this class. I was thinking somewhere romantic for the honeymoon, like the Lord of the Rings Hobbit Hotel. Let's take a look at our marital profile. Okay, it says here I'm a court stenographer making $53,000 a year. You're a dental hygienist making $42,000 a year.
Yeah, no. No, that can't be right, because I would never have a job making less money than you, or touching people's filthy mouths. In fact, I don't want a job. I see myself as a wealthy philanthropist who entertains dignitaries on her yacht.
And I see myself passing this class. One of our dreams can actually come true. So pick a place to live.
I suggest we get a starter home in the suburbs.
Or we save lots of money by living with my parents and buying an even nicer house.
Ew, no way.
Why not? You practically live here already.
You are so controlling. I never should have married you.
You think you're a bed of roses? I don't even know you anymore. I'm sick of arguing with you over everything. Can we just decide how many kids we're having? I'm thinking 4.
That seems like a nightmare for the kids. Seriously? 4 kids? There is no way I'm having 4 kids. When would I find the time to hire and manage all of those nannies?
No nannies. I want to be a stay-at-home dad.
You expect me to support this family on a dental hygienist salary? Forget it.
Come on! I really want to hear the pitter-patter of little feet.
Get a dog!
Fine. But if we don't have kids, then what do we do with the $200,000 saved in the college fund?
We saved $200,000? We're millionaires!
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have to worry about your kids going to college.
So as you can see, my husband, Ernest, a very well-respected court stenographer, and I have decided not to have any children.
And that dramatically increased our disposable income. I can now afford a fancy sports car.
And we purchased a second home, a ski house in Vermont. That way we never have to actually see each other.
Which makes me think this marriage can last forever. But you didn't do the assignment. You were supposed to balance a budget for a family. This isn't the oldie days, Mrs. Greenfield.
Right. You can be a family without having any kids. Welcome to 2016.
Well, I guess you guys kind of do make a point. All right, I'm giving Marissa and Ernie an A. You know, we make a really good team, Mrs. Cooper.
No.
I don't even think I need to break this down. I think it's pretty obvious. All the nuances of indoctrinating young people into these ideologies. The reality is, the good Lord told us to be fruitful and multiply, and for us to love God and love other people. And if we can follow those really basic principles, the world will be fine. But there is a heart issue. There's something in the human soul that has been corrupted, and that's why we are in the state that we are in now. And we've been freed of this already, and that was through the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And there's an ultimate fulfillment of that plan coming. But until then, we have to occupy in this fallen state. But the good news is that it's already been resolved. And that's what the whole gospel message is about. It's the good news. So we don't need to worry about overpopulation if every single one of us simply loved God and love our neighbor. Then I think things will be all right. Have an awesome day, guys. God bless.